It's the Mio and MMA podcast recapping UFC Kansas City, which went down yesterday. I'm doing this way later than normal. It is Sunday evening. I usually try to get this out during the afternoon or even in the morning when possible. But unfortunately, I'm having some teeth-related issues. I had to go to the dentist today. I had to get it all looked at, and they gave me some good stuff to get some sleep in because I had really not slept Friday night. I'd really not slept Saturday night, so I needed something to help out with that. And I'll be back tomorrow to hopefully get the problem fixed. Basically relates back to an old broken tooth of mine. Anyways, so it's quite painful, but we'll soldier on. Or I'll soldier on, I guess. So let's break down what happened on this card. I don't have much to get into off the top of the block here, other than I did incredibly poorly. Because this was one of my worst cards, strictly from a win-loss percentage. I think I had 4 wins. Let me just verify that. Yeah, Max Holloway, Bolaños, Edwards, and Algio, and that was it. So 4-10, very, very poor outing. Some of those losses, I got dynamics correct and whatever, and things just didn't pay out. That happens. And some of them, oh boy, straight wrong. Very, very wrong. Very, very wrong. And even on the wins, like a lot of people think Jocelyn Edwards didn't win. We'll get to that fight at the end. I wouldn't even really say I had the dynamic of the Bill Algio fight correct. He won, but that fight was not how I saw it going. It was way better, which is nice. So let's get into the recap here. So at the top of the card, we had Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. Got this one right. I did think Max would get a late finish. I thought Allen would fade a bit. Max would turn up the wick a little bit towards the end. Actually, kind of the opposite happened because Allen's best rounds were kind of towards the end. I scored the second round for him. I'm a little puzzled that the second round was not a unanimous one for him, honestly. I thought Allen did quite well in the second round. Let's have a look at the official scorecards here. So, Judge Travis Brusking had the same score I had live, getting the second and fifth to Allen. I've reversed my thought on the fifth round, watching it a second time, and I swapped it over to Holloway because of the knockdown he scored. Sal D'Amato gave the first 4 rounds to Holloway and gave the 5th to Allen. Chris Lee did the same. So I would say Busking's card was most correct, which is not surprising because let's be honest here. You've got Sal D'Amato, you've got Chris Lee. Not exactly known for their high quality and agreeable scorecards to me. Why did I give the second round to him? I thought that, number one, it was the closest in terms of output round. There was only a 6-strike difference, so it was Holloway's most inactive round, the round where he did the least. And it was the round where Allen started to actually get some forward pressure going, started to land some big shots, like he started finding some big overhands, and generally did some damage. And it's kind of the same thing with the 5th round, honestly. He went for broke and tried to get it done. Those were the 2 rounds I think he did the best in. I think the 4th was also fairly close. Like, there were some people scoring this for Arnold Allen. I think if you're scoring it for Arnold Allen, you're wrong, but I think it works in the sense that, like, you're giving him every benefit of a doubt of the quality of his strikes, and every time Holloway didn't have a super good strike delta, you gave Allen the round. Fair enough, I guess, but I think that's stretching it. I think 1, 3, 4 are Holloway rounds. 2 is a Allen round. And if it wasn't for the knockdown, I'd also give him the 5th. But at the end of the day, I think 49-46 is the correct scorecard. 48-47 Max is not terrible, though. So what did we learn from this fight? Well, we learned very, very little from the Max Holloway point of view. And if we're being honest, I mean, Max Holloway at this point, part of that is we absolutely know a lot about him. We've seen a ton of fighting. He's in his early 30s now. He's not necessarily, he's showing new tricks and stuff. But, this fight was the standard thing. Like, he puts on volume, landed almost 200 strikes in this fight. I think it was like UFC stats tell me, oh no, it was only 147. Okay, so not nearly as big as he's put up on some other people, but like good volume. You know, yeah, Allen had some moments when he pressured him, but he couldn't sustain it. And the only time that he had sustained success was the 5th round, and that was when he was going for broke and pouring everything out. Now, I will say Dana White has been critical of Allen's plan. I think essentially, if I'm reading it correctly, if I'm reading between the lines, he believes Allen should have had his 5th round approach for the entire fight. I don't think that that's even possible. I don't think, like, if you look at Allen's historical way of fighting and historical gas tank, I don't think he can do that. So unless the argument is that he could finish Max in the first, maybe the 2nd round, I don't think he really could have fought any differently. Like, I don't think that there's a format of this fight that goes necessarily better without a finish for Arnold. And to be clear, like in the 5th round when he really started opening up, that's when Holloway hurt him. That's when Holloway dropped him. That's when Holloway started to, find his power shots. So there is that trade-off. I think Allen showed well here. He took a round off of Max. I honestly didn't even expect that. He and on one court, he took 2 rounds. And of course, the round I didn't give him, all 3 judges gave him, that being the 5th round. So, he did well. He showed off. He has nothing to be ashamed of here. It's just, this is how the division is. You have Volkanovski at the top, who is phenomenal and has beaten Max Holloway 3 times. And the problem is, I don't really think anyone else beats Max Holloway. I think he is more than anyone else because, someone posted up a picture of trying to get Colby Covington put in the same category as him, as well as Robert Whittaker. One of those, what do these 3 have in common? And he gave up the ghost. He gave up the quiet part and said it out loud eventually that, they're all the 2nd best fighter in the divisions. I don't think Colby is. I think Max and Rob are. That being said, there are people at 185 that I am concerned about their ability to beat Robert Whittaker. Like it exists, whereas with 145, there just isn't. I don't think that there's a division outside. Maybe heavyweight. No, because I don't have that much faith in Cyril Gahn. Trying to think of another weight class that even would be close. And I've honestly got nothing. I mean, maybe flyweight, where you have Alexander Petrosia, who's going to challenge for the title, who's kind of unbeatable to the rest of the division. But that would be the closest, I guess. But Holloway is the ultimate number 2 in this weight class. And he got the job done here. He apparently wants to fight Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie has said that fighting Max would be his dream fight. And he has also talked about this possibly being his retirement fight. So I don't see why you don't do that. Make that happen. If Max is willing to take it, willing to fight down, essentially, a fight that has no real payoff for him beyond a W and the paycheck associated with it, why not? Why not have that moment? And also, it keeps him away from fresh contenders because, there are people talking about how he should fight Ilia Topuria, Josh Emmett winner. No. I mean, maybe if it's Emmett, because I don't think of Emmett as a title contender. But if Topuria beats Emmett, no, keep him away from Max Holloway, please, because we've just killed off Arnold Allen as a bookable title challenger for the foreseeable future. You're gonna run out of him at some point. I'm not saying don't ever let a contender get near Max Holloway. It's gonna have to happen at some point. But at a time where you really have one bankable up-and-comer in the form of Topuria, and yet Allen and Topuria, and you've derailed Allen, well, I guess you could say Movsar Evelev is kind of an up-and-comer in that regard. But, no, wait, is Evelev... No, Evelev is 155, isn't he? Is he not? What? Why am I blanking on what division Movsar Evelev of all people is? Because I'm very, very high on him. How have I messed this up? Yeah, no, he is featherweight. Okay, so you've got Evil, you've got Taporia, but you could use more. You could do like a fun fight with Giga Chikadze as well, I guess. But I would do the Korean Zombie fight, and I would do Arnold Allen against the loser of Emmett Taporia, or just Josh Emmett outright. Because if Emmett wins, he's got nothing better on the table than fighting Arnold Allen. I guess unless you do him versus Max. But that's what I would go with it. People were talking about Edson Barboza getting the shot. Max, I don't like it. I don't like it. I have better ideas for Barboza. Speaking of Barboza, co-main event with Billy Quarantillo. Yeah, I had this one wrong. The flow of the fight wasn't terribly different than what I thought it would be. Like, Quarantillo was having success hurting and pressuring Barboza into the cage to set up potential takedowns. But he was just too slow, too lacking in explosiveness, possibly didn't, lacking in technique maybe, but I think it was really more physical and unable to get the takedowns. And he was getting lit up, and Barboza was hitting him kind of at will on the way in, and then eventually knocked him out with a knee. And apparently he's like detailed to Billy Quarantillo how he got, and Quarantillo's coaches, how he got the knockout. That's pretty cool. Edson Barboza's a fun guy. It's a shame that he's 37 years old and just on the downslide. That was the reason I would pick him. Like, Quarantillo would have represented the exact stylistic matchup that has beaten him, but like at the absolute lowest level, particularly physically, that it's worked on, and it didn't. So he went out there, he got the job done. I've got him against Lerone Murphy. I was looking down. I like that matchup. I know it's not shiny, it's not super sexy, but I have a lot of faith in Lerone Murphy. Now, granted, this could be my British associates' influence on me, because he's been talking up Lerone Murphy before Murphy got to the UFC even. So like that is stuck in my noggin. And Murphy's last fight was not amazing. But you go out there with Lerone Murphy, Edson Barboza, you got yourself a fun fight. You've got yourself something interesting. And it's not like Murphy will avoid the type of fight that Barboza wants to have, because like one of his like trademarks is having the fight you want to have. So there is that. And for Quarantillo, I've been asking you for it forever. Give me the Battle of the Bills. Bill Quarantillo, Bill Algeo, do it, make it happen. I swear it was booked at one point. I'm gonna be absolutely flabbergasted if it's actually happened. No, it was booked. It was booked for July of 2022, and in the end, Quarantillo withdrew. And I'd be interested. What did Algeo? Who did it got replaced by? Nothing. Algeo ended up fighting Herbert Burns instead. So, I mean, hey, you got a big win. Give me the Battle of the Bills. Make that happen. Moving on down, Dustin Jacoby versus Azamat Murzakanov, because they're saying it that way. I'll go with it. I was disappointed by Jacoby in this fight in a lot of ways. Like, I thought that with the massive stylistic matchup, he had advantage here. Like, super rangy guy against one of, if not the shortest, both in terms of height and reach, 205ers in the UFC in Murzakanov. And a guy who honestly has kind of relied on people running forward into his punches. And I was like, Jacoby's not going to do that. He's going to hang around at range. He's going to work some kicks. He's going to work his jab. He's going to manage the range. He didn't. Or was unable to. I mean, I guess the charitable rating of this is that Murzakanov is actually really, really, really good at closing range. And I think part of that is true. But I also think Jacoby just didn't really fight well. Like, this just didn't feel like Justin Jacoby. This is not how he usually loses, I guess, in a nutshell. And he also showed, like, complete failure of fight IQ in the third round, where he starts going for a takedown when he definitely needs a finish, because he lost the first two rounds very clearly. Dude got knocked down a couple of times. How many knockdowns did they end up crediting Murzakanov with? I know it's going to be a lot. Only one. Okay, I thought there were like three, to be honest. But hey, UFC stats is UFC stats. They're gonna do UFC stats things. But yeah, Murzakanov ended up only outlanding him 67 to 64, but way more impactful punches. Stays undefeated. Apparently broke his arm at the end of the second round. So Jacoby only won a round, because he broke his arm, it seems. I mean, possibly. I did have Jacoby winning the second until he got dropped. I don't know. I'm incredibly mixed because, like, part of me, I said this in my preview, Murzakanov is like, my spirit animal, 5'10", 205er. That's my guy. That is definitely my guy. That is my avatar in the UFC world. But I don't know. I just can't help but think that Jacoby just didn't fight well, wasn't prepared well, didn't make good decisions in the cage. I don't want to take things away from Murzakanov, but that's what it feels like to me. I don't have an opponent for Murzakanov because if his arm is broke, we don't know when he's going to be back. For Jacoby, I have two thoughts. Option A, rematch of the draw he had with Ion Cutelaba. Option B, Alonzo Menifield. I know people want Menifield to fight Jimmy Crute again, and the UFC apparently also is trying to put that fight together. I don't want to see it. Menifield crushed Crute quite badly and only lost because he is himself a bit of a dumbass, if we're being entirely honest. And that's kind of my problem is I don't want to see that rematch. I know, draws usually lead to rematches and so on, but you know what? There's a draw between Cutelaba and Jacoby. They should be on the same track. And otherwise, like I said, bring me Menifield in that fight. I would like it. I think it plays right into the wheelhouses of both guys. So there you go. And then speaking of Ion Cutelaba, oh God, he ran over Tanner Boser. Tanner Boser looked really, really good at the weigh-ins, don't get me wrong. Like, he looks really good at 205. The problem is that, kind of like I thought, because I toyed with the idea of picking Cutelaba in this fight very closely, because I'm like, okay, Boser's problem has been foot speed, and takedown defense, essentially. Not even necessarily on a technical level, but like the foot speed allows people to generally put him against the cage and work their wrestling game. And Cutelaba, does have foot speed, does have a wrestling game, and I don't think that, like, in general 205 fixes anything for Boser. But I went with Boser because I had no faith in Cutelaba to not Hulk out and essentially just not, essentially kick Boser's butt for a bit, get tired and get beaten. That didn't happen here. He went out there and he put the beaten screws to Tanner Boser and brought about all of my major, let's be honest, all of my major concerns about Tanner Boser going into this fight and finished him in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Fantastic run. If he is indeed an Extreme Couture, because he's listed there on Tapology, this could be the beginning of things. It was a bit of an early stoppage. There was some talk about this because the stoppage came when Boser is against the cage and trying to wall walk up. He is pulling himself up and he's getting hockey punched in the face. The thing that makes me not really object to the stoppage is that he had been hurt badly a couple of times already and wasn't necessarily defending intelligently kind of throughout the fight. Like, I think he was rocked pretty badly. I think on sort of autopilot, he was trying to get up. He was, quote unquote, trying to improve his position. There was some intelligent idea to his defense, but I think he was eating a lot of damage for no real reason. So I'm quite happy with the referee who stopped the fight, to be honest. And I picked him. So clearly it wasn't from a betting standpoint. Who was the ref? It was Keith Peterson. Yeah, we had Keith Peterson, Jason Herzog. Dwayne Best was okay. But Nick Behrens was bad. Only really in one fight, but he was bad. Anyways, moving on. We got to talk about matchmaking. Obviously, I said Cutelaba against Dustin Jacoby, or he could fight Alonzo Menifield. I'm quite happy with that. I am fine with that. Tanner Boser, admittedly, I'm stealing someone else's idea here. The MMA fighting guys on their On to the Next One podcast, Alexander K. Lee and Mike Heck, said, what about Tanner Boser pseudo-retirement fight, because he's apparently got one fight left on his contract, in Canada against Dominic Reyes? I'm fine with that. That feels about right for Reyes. It feels bigger than probably what Bozer deserves, but I'm also game for like a send-off in Canada. So, yeah, let's do that. Then we had Pedro, well, before that we had Pedro Munoz, Chris Gutierrez. Gutierrez just never really got going here. Like in the first round, Munoz came out and pressured him, like dropped him, ended up in his guard, doing a really good job. And then it kind of cooled down, but like he was still able to pressure Gutierrez more or less at will, land leg kicks more or less at will. Gutierrez never managed to take not the front foot from him, because that's not what Gutierrez does. He's a counter guy. But he never made the price tag for entering the pocket to pressure him anything significant. He never made Munoz check his own aggression or think twice or have any kind of pause. And this just unfortunately might be the case that, like, kind of like I said, I didn't like this fight from the start because I thought that, honestly, if you're going to try to make something of Gutierrez, you should probably put him up against somebody who has more flash on them, because after the fight with Sean O'Malley, Munoz's stock took a big hit. Like, there were a lot of casual fans that thought he wanted out of that fight, which is never a good place to be. And, it was also kind of dull because he didn't do a lot. He did very, very little. He was winning the fight on my card via low kicks, essentially. And he comes out here and he's more like the normal dude, and like the normal dude got the job done. So you fed Frankie Edgar to Chris Gutierrez to try to create a hype train, and then Gutierrez just loses to Munoz, and you got nothing. You didn't get a feel-good moment for Frankie Edgar, which we'll talk about with Zach Cummins in a bit, and you didn't really transfer the hype in any real appreciable way to anybody because Munoz doesn't get that hype. He lost Edgar. I don't know. It was not a good matchmaking, and the fight was action heavy. The fight was pretty good. It's not boring. It's not a skip fight, but the fact that there really wasn't a point where I thought Gutierrez was starting to build anything or really make Munoz respect him and what he brought to the table was not great. So analytically speaking, it was a bit weak. For the next opponents, I got Munoz versus Jonathan Martinez. I would like to see if Jonathan Martinez, who I do rather closely equate with Gutierrez in terms of general ideas, not necessarily actual like application, but like the grand strategic picture for both guys is kind of the same. And see if he can do something with Munoz, because I still don't have faith that Munoz is like back. Even though this was a rejuvenative performance for him. This was you all forgot kind of moment for him. But I don't know. I'm still not riding terribly high on the bandwagon. And I've got Gutierrez versus Adrian Yanez because they're both deflated guys. Put them against each other, see what happens. Hint, hint, I will probably take Yanez. Clay Guida versus Rafa Garcia was a Guida fight that he loses. I kind of sad his hedge by picking Guida here. I feel like probably every time I pick Guida from this point onwards, there's going to be a saddest hedge to it, because I don't honestly think that Clay Guida at this point should be winning any high-level MMA fights. Partially because of the age, partially because if you don't know what Clay Guida is going to do by now, I just don't know how to help you. And I was kind of worried that Rafa Garcia, who is a guy who doesn't really structure a fight necessarily, was going to kind of fall into the type of fight that, Guida wins. And he didn't do that. And I don't know if that's high praise or not. It's definitely more than I expected, though. So it is praise. He did get the job done, and Guida did the fake retirement afterwards, which probably would have gone over better if, like, Bill Algeo hadn't already done it. We'll talk about that in a sec, but like literally the fight before, Bill Algeo did the same thing to get a happy birthday to his mom. Garcia was really emotional, so actually I do feel kind of bad for Rafa Garcia because he was having a big moment up there, and I would have liked that to just be his moment. It's a big win. Still, Guida carries name value. And yeah. In the meantime, Guida did move up into 5th in the all-time cage time, overtaking. I think it was the aforementioned. No, it was Diego Sanchez. I think it was Frankie Edgar for some reason. No, Diego Sanchez and Jim Miller for 5th. So there you go. Next fights, I've got Garcia versus Mike Davis. I think that'd be a very fun fight. And I don't care for Guida. The On to the Next One show suggested Tony Ferguson. And sure, why not? They're two fighters that I'm not going to be rid of. And I also don't care about. In terms of as fighters. Like, Guida seems like a reasonably solid human being, whatever. Like, again, this is all like me talking about like not really wanting to see them fight again. I'm not going to say retire, but I am going to say I'm not interested in your fights. And that's the case for both those guys. TJ Brown versus Bill Algeo. Okay, so TJ Brown usually comes up pretty slow. He did not here today. No. He came out there. Yes, he got hit with a couple of overhands. So, like, by no means a perfect display in the first round, but he out-scrambled Algeo, threatened for the Kimura that I don't think was really anything. But he was landing a lot of jabs, a lot of success, a lot of counter rights landing. Algeo got beat up. There was towards the end of the round, Algeo started to find his own counter game and get things going. Tends to be what he kind of does. But it was in round 2 where, Algeo hit him with a solid knee. TJ Brown looks for a takedown. Algeo ends up dropping him with a counter elbow. Very nice counter elbow, by the way. Boom. Just ran right into that. Gets him in the crucifix. Gets the back mount. Gets the rear naked choke. Boom. Boom. Does the fake retirement. Does the heel dump on Kansas City. He would never retire in a dump like this. I say this. I do think Algeo is just. I said this like he's a really smart fighter, but he also comes off as just like a really dumb person. And kind of this was in keeping with that. But at the same time, this is something a lot of MMA fighters need to, I don't know, grasp. Thinking about Dricus Duplessis right now, thinking about Colby Covington to a certain example. If you say something that is like a heel move in professional wrestling, you will be the heel. And Algeo doesn't seem to care about that. The two guys I mentioned do. I'm not saying everyone's going to dislike Algeo or dislike Colby. Like, they're obviously Colby fans. They're defenders for DDP with the whole, air quotes, real African stuff. But, like, it's hot button topics with loaded stuff. You go into it, it's going to be a thing. Anyways. For next fights, like I said, Algeo versus Billy Q. And I've got TJ Brown against Ken Willa-Kirk, assuming he's healthy. Brandon Royval ran over Matthias Nicolau. And he actually was the guy to get a counter knockout in this fight against the counter knockout puncher, Matthias Nicolau. So, hey, good work. Apparently there's a story going around that Royval learned that Nicolau was going to get cut and that he said that they shouldn't cut him, and you put me in there with him, and I'm going to make him exciting. I'm going to prevent him from being boring. I'm going to show you what can happen. I guess he did that. He's pretty much going to have to get a title shot against the winner of Pantoja versus Moreno, because I don't think there's any need for a rematch after that fight, at least not an immediate one, even if Pantoja wins. They love giving their champions rematches. But yeah, I think he'll get a title shot. And for Nicolau, well, if the UFC wants to cut him, I guess that's on the table, but they shouldn't. This dude is one of the best flyweights in the world, which I know is like hard to say after he just got absolutely run over in this fight by Brandon Royval and basically dusted. But like the position on the card here suggests that they were not high on this fight. Now they are not high on flyweight in general, but they've historically been kind of high on Royval. So I don't know. There might be smoke to this fire. But I would match him up with Tadjir Ulanbekov. I think that's a fun fight. Ulanbekov is a guy who will pressure him and make him fight at a reasonably high pace, or at the very least defend takedowns. Or if you want Nikolai to lose, well, Ulanbekov might take him down and like hold him down. because he's, one of the better wrestlers in the division. So there's that. That's what I would do. Ed Herman, Zach Cummins was a shit show between two old dudes. I had 10-8s in the first and the second round, honestly, for Zach Cummins. I don't want to overly talk about Cummins' performance. It was for a guy coming back from 3 years away, who hadn't honestly been all that impressive before that, to come out and put on this performance in his final fight and then retire in front of his hometown or not his hometown. I don't think he's from Kansas City, but he's been training out of this area for long time. He's fought here multiple times for the UFC even. And to go out there and just make Ed Herman look incredibly old in a way that even Alonzo Menefield, I honestly have to say, did not do. Menefield beat Herman categorically, but this was even worse somehow. And I credit Cummins also for Cummings for not electing to be to chicken out on the retirement, I guess. He goes out there, he has a great performance. He doesn't do what a lot of fighters do, which is rethink, be I can still do this. And he probably still can, but he is not going to get a better walk-off moment than what he got here today, yesterday. And Ed Herman also retired. That's a good idea, because Ed Herman was officially on the I don't even think he should be sanctioned after that fight. That was terrible. Ed Herman got hit every time. Every time he threw a kick, got countered. Every time Cummins decided to throw in combination, hit him hard. Herman's most notable offense was a pair of illegal up kicks. Let's be honest. There was no way to win. And honestly, I'm disappointed that the corner didn't throw the towel in. I kind of get it, because I did kind of say back when Glover Teixeira fought Jamal Hill that it's your last fight. I get not throwing the towel in. I do understand that. But at the same time, Glover Teixeira, I never gave up hope, could beat Jamal Hill. At no point did I think to myself that there wasn't a path to victory. For Ed Herman, there wasn't. He couldn't out-wrestle Cummings. Sorry, I keep leaving the G off. And he could not in any way, shape, or form strike with him. So thank you for retiring. And your corner should have thrown the towel in. Anyways, obviously no next opponents, because please, in both of these guys' case, please stay retired. It's not getting better for Zach, and it's getting scary for Ed. Below that, we had Jillian Robertson's strawweight, not debut. I don't even know if this was her debut at strawweight in the UFC. Let me see here. When was she last at strawweight here? Just gonna go through here for a little bit here. It's looking like it was at least her UFC debut at strawweight. Yeah. The only person I associate with strawweight on this list is Courtney Casey. And Courtney Casey's been fighting at flyweight for a while. She just used to fight at strawweight. Yeah, okay. They said return. Where did she fight? There we are. She had to fight with Hannah Goldie at Island Fights 37 at strawweight. And against Mickey Rogers, who was 1-4 at the time, at Atlas Fights 29. Those were strawweight fights. I think originally her fight with Cynthia Calvillo at GKO 8 also appears like it probably was supposed to be strawweight. And her Hannah Cephas fight. So yeah, she's hasn't been at strawweight since 2017. So she returns successfully here. I do think that this was more about the failures of Pierre Rodriguez. Honestly, I had bad feelings as soon as Rodriguez was walking out, and the commentary team, I think it was Cormier, but it might have been Bisping. I don't know. Or it might have been Fitzgerald. Somebody on the commentary team was talking about how she wasn't afraid to grapple with Robertson. And I immediately had bad feels about it at that point. I immediately regretted my pick because it doesn't, honestly, unless you're Mackenzie Dern, and I don't know, maybe like a Tabitha Ricci or something, no strawweight should be wanting no strawweight shouldn't be afraid to grapple with Jillian Robertson because her stand-up is quite poor, and she's going to be pretty big, pretty strong at 115, and she is one of the better grapplers at 115. You don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. Take the path of least resistance. Do that. Anyway, she did not do that. Not that she tried to take her down or anything, but like she got close enough for Robertson to pull guard. Robertson got back up, hit the single leg. I didn't actually think she won the first round. And I know that one judge was getting crap for scoring it for her. I think, or it might have been two even, for scoring round one for Rodriguez. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Rodriguez landed some decent shots, hurt Robertson a little bit, and this is a damage-based criteria. Keep in mind that Robertson from top position landed 20 strikes total. Did very little from top, with her 2 minutes and 12 seconds top control. I'm not saying you ignore top control, but I don't have a problem with Rodriguez winning that round. But like the key was Robertson was like a light bulb went up in her head, like, oh, she can't defend a single leg. I'm just going to do this repetitively. And got her down. Ended up with her in a crucifix position, got an armbar locked on in the second round. There was a tap. I don't think it was actually a tap out because I believe most state regulations require multiple taps. But she was definitely thinking about it. She did tap once, and they did say a verbal submission. And also, here's the thing. The referee does have the prerogative, discretion, that's the word I'm looking for, to stop a fight in a submission hold. The perfect example of this is the Frank Mir-Tim Sylvia fight. Tim Sylvia did not tap, but Frank Mir won the bell because he snapped his arm. And I don't think Rodriguez was going to like the result of being stuck in that armbar. Honestly, Robertson's got good submissions. That was deep. And I have no problem with the referee stopping that fight. None whatsoever, even if I do technically agree that it probably was not a tap. A tap out, I should say. Robertson versus the Ducote versus Viana winner, I think is appropriate. Every time she wins, there is a very vocal fan base support. And like fans who are like, I think relatively intelligent too. I don't think this is like mindless nuthoogery. Come out of the woodwork and talk about her winning the belt in like a year or winning the belt in 2 years. I still don't think so. I think she's too one-dimensional, and nothing about this actually convinced me otherwise. Now, I do think she'll be better at strawweight because she'll be bigger, and generally speaking, being a bigger grappler is a good idea. It is, it makes her game more effective, unlike, say, a Tanner Boser going down to 205. But she's a Canadian, she's from my extended neck of the woods. I still do not think that highly. So, do the Ducote versus Viana winner. And both of those are very, very winnable fights, but like make it happen. And Pierre Rodriguez, I have Montserrat Caneo Ruiz as her opponent. Lando Venata, Daniel Zellhuber. Zellhuber did really well. He hurt Lando pretty badly. I scored rounds 1 and 3, I do believe, for Zellhuber. What were the scores on this one? One judge went 30-27. One judge had my score, which was a 10-8 first round for Zellhuber and a 10-9 third round. And then David Hyatt also. Yeah, so Travis Busking, I think, maybe was a little bit harsh to Venata. But, Lando never really... I don't want to say never really got going, because I think that's uncharitable. Because I think he did a lot of the things he traditionally wants to do. But his problem is that he likes to flex or take pictures, I believe is a terminology that people like to use. He'll do something like super slick, super clean, whatever, and then just kind of stand there being like, hey, wasn't that awesome? And then bam. And Zellhuber, motivated properly by a corner and seems to have figured out some things that he didn't have with the Ogden fight. He's 23 years old. He made improvements here, and he actually has a very bright future. Now, to be clear, nothing is guaranteed. Let's not go Raul Rosas Jr. on this whole thing, where people were like, after he beat Jay Perrin, they're like, oh my God, he's going to be a champion. Let's settle it down, because there is no guaranteed linear development here. But Zellhuber did make some steps forward. I liked what I saw, and I'm looking forward to his next fight. And I'll probably be able to pick him in that fight, because I think the way that they'll match him up probably will be. I've got Chris Duncan penciled in there. I'm not feeling like in love with that fight or whatever. And for Groovy Lando, I got John Makdessi. Make that rematch happen. Give Makdessi a chance at redemption, and give Lando a chance to show it all off again. Bruna Brazil versus Denise Gomes. I was very wrong about this fight. Not so much with Gomes. Because, Gomes showed off that she's got power, she's got a good clinch game, she's fearless, she'll keep coming forward, she's got the aggression that limits the limitations of her size and frame. But I thought Brazil would be able to keep the range a little bit. I thought Brazil would be stronger in the clinch too. And neither of those were true. Gomes just ran into her range, landed some hard shots, got some takedown. Now, granted, Daniel Cormier was having a fit with the sacrificial takedown she was going for, and I don't blame him. Those were, no, rethink those. But got the job done and got an impressive stoppage here in the second round of this fight that she was doing very, very, very well in. She did get Brazil did land clean a couple of times as well. It's okay. Like, it's not the end. Like, it's not a fraud check. People were calling Arnold Allen getting fraud checked in this fight, this card, by the way. Oh, God, why? Why is that word a thing? But it does indicate that there are some things she needs to learn and some things she needs to do, because she does have a great frame for the division, and there is some stuff to do. I've got her against Estela Nunes next. I'm not sure if Nunes is still around because she lost a bunch of fights and was not winning. But the UFC also is keeping people for their entire contract lengths. So I don't know. And for Gomes, Sam Hughes would be a good next step, because I think Sam Hughes is just like a good next step for a lot of people. She gets prepared really, really well on a preparation level and brings the fight. So hey, let that happen. Gaston Bolaños beat Aaron Phillips. I scored all 3 rounds for him, although I get the second and the third round saw Phillips on top control a lot. I just think that he got damaged way too much on the feet in both of those rounds. I think that Bolaños was doing more or less whatever he wanted to him on the feet. He was landing, and I'm still not a big fan of Bolaños' game. I think that, number one, his problems with takedowns were shown up because Aaron Phillips is not a good wrestler. He is not anyone's idea of a good anything. But, he got takedowns and he got back control and he got mount. And man, the referee in this fight sucked, because the referee was yelling for stand-ups the whole time. And I was not a fan. But yeah, Bolaños did cool things on the feet. That's what he's going to do. He's got high-end action potential. He's a Melchik Bagdasarian, shitty Giga Chikadze type of guy. He'll do cool stuff. He'll have fun. He's never going to be boring. Well, I guess he could be. He could just get held down. But, he went out there, he did his thing, and I thought he won all 3 rounds. Aaron Phillips is kind of garbage. I've got Phillips getting cut. If he is still around, I guess he can welcome someone from Dana White Contender Series. And for Bolaños, I've got Chad Anheliger as a guy who probably will consent to have a kickboxing match with him. That's what I want to see. I don't really want to see him against anyone who will grapple, because I have no faith in him stopping it. Jocelyn Edwards versus Lucy Pudilova was the opener, and this was called a robbery. And I get it. I scored this 29-28 for Pudilova. But I'm going to say this. In the first round, Lucy Pudilova, and to a degree the second round was also true, but she got a takedown earlier in in the round. Did very, very little with her dominant top positions. She got outlanded 31-17 total, 17-8 significant strikes. I am not saying that you shouldn't score that round for Pudilova, because she did get dominant positions and she did absolutely, control the grappling phase. And it's not like she took extreme damage on the feet, but I do get it. I do get that Pudilova, by the way, get away from straight blast gym, please. I say this to almost every fighter, but particularly to Pudilova. Why? I don't get it. I don't get it. If you're gonna relocate, don't relocate to Ireland. There you go. She just didn't do enough for me to think that it was actually a robbery. Like, I again scored the fight for her, and I don't think you can take the second round away from her. I don't even necessarily think you can guarantee the third round for Jocelyn Edwards, to be honest. Probably. I'm looking at the numbers. Edwards had the better shots landed and apparently did have the volume. So I guess that does go. It's all about how you see the first round. I get it. I get both sides of the equation. I honestly don't think it's that much of a robbery. I don't really have much else to say about this fight. It was kind of what I expected, that when Edwards was able to establish range, she was winning. But she also was really fond of spinning stuff that I don't necessarily think is a good idea. By the way, Gaston Bolaños, also a guy very fond of the spinning stuff, and that got him in trouble a lot. I don't like how Edwards is developing. I don't honestly overly love how Pudilova is developing. I want both of these girls to be good because they have the raw physicality to be interesting bantamweights, and there are very few of those. But I don't feel good about either of them. For Edwards, I have Julia Vilia. Maybe. I don't know what's up with her. She seems to fight very infrequently. And for Lucy Pudilova, I have Julia Stoliarenko if she's still around. That's what this weight class looks like. It was not a good fight. The fight card as a whole, pretty good. We got a solid main event, which is always going to be a winner for me. We got a couple other good ones as well. Barbosa, Quarantillo was really good. Murzakanov and Jacoby, as frustrating as it was good. Kudalaba Bozer was good. Munoz Gutierrez were fine, even though I really wanted more out of it. Algio, TJ Brown, yes. Brandon Royval, great. Jillian Robertson, Pierre Rodriguez was fun as well. You can check that out. And Denise Gomes, Bruno Brazil, and Bolaños Phillips. Admittedly, did not feel like a UFC fight. It felt very much like a Bellator fight, but still fun. Didn't watch the PFL. Didn't hear a lot of good things about it. And also, come on. I just had leg surgery, and I've also got a bad tooth. So, cut me a little bit of slack. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a preview for the upcoming UFC card, just because it does depend on what happens with the tooth. So, I might talk to you on Thursday about that card, plus the upcoming Bellator and stuff. Otherwise, there will be a Discord post if I'm just not up to talking about it. Not up to vocalizing it. I'll write it out, put it on Discord. I don't, and I'll put it on Facebook as well. I don't have a website beyond that, so there you go. So those will be where you can find my picks, perhaps come next week. Let's have a look at the card real quick. I might as well give some thoughts. I might as well give kind of an extended preview here. So you got one coming up. The MMA stuff is not particularly great. I'm always here for Denise Zamboanga, and Hali Amir is winning me over as someone who might be worth watching. Those guys are on the card, but they're not. Well, that guy and that woman are on the card, but I'm not super happy with who they're fighting. I get why Zamboanga is fighting who she's fighting, but I don't know. I'm not excited for it. Bellator 294, is a bit of a dead end. All due respect to Liz Carmouche and Deanna Bennett, but that's not really a main event. Well, it is, but it's not a super sexy main event. And Sarah McMahon's debut against Arlene Blencowe, I guess, is worth watching. I don't dig Danny Sabatello. If you do, all the more power to you. Terrell Fortune might do something cool. But 295, on the other hand, very good. Rafion Stotts, Patchy Nix in the bantamweight finals. You also have Eliminated McFarlane versus Kana Watanabe. Aaron Pico versus James Gonzalez. It's not bad. Ray Bork versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Yes, please. Justin Gonzalez versus Matt Brunell. Yes, please. Kai Kamaka is always fun. And yeah, it's all pretty good. Actually, I also have a little bit of hope for Davion Franklin to kind of turn into something, although he did get submitted by Marcelo Golem last time out. And then you have the UFC Fight Night, Blades versus Pavlovich. Good main event. Very good co-main event with Yadong Song versus Ricky Simone, but it kind of falls off after that. Like, I'm a little bit interested in Jeremiah Wells versus Matt Semmelsberger. I always have fun with Ricky Glenn. He's on the card. But that's kind of about it. Not super loving it. Anyways, that's what's coming up. And hopefully I'll be able to get a preview for that to you guys. If not, I will see you. I would hope at least afterwards to give a recap. I would hope that the tooth is dealt with at that point and we're able to move on to business as usual. If you are not on the Discord, and if you don't know where the Facebook is, the links are down below. You can also find my Twitter there and my various other channels. So hey, check it out. By the way, the Discord's going to be probably popping for the next bit because I'm going to be unhappy, in pain, and probably running a boatload of simulated fights. So there you go. Those are reasons why you should check it out.